for minute-taking purposes, as well as posting recording on the proceedings on the agency website. The meeting is also being live streamed on Access Health Connecticut website. It's requested that the participants introduce themselves every time they speak, and roll call votes will be taken for every action item. You want to call the roll, Marcia?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Thomas McNeil, Chair.
Present.
Steven Hernandez. Paul Philpott.
Here.
Thank you. Kathleen Holt.
Here.
Thank you. And Dina Berlin.
Here.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, at this point, would you like to request for the senior leadership team of Access Health to introduce themselves?
Absolutely, that'd be great.
Good morning, all. James Michelle, Access Health Connecticut.
Good morning, all. Susan Rich By, Access Health Connecticut, Director of Legal and Governmental Affairs.
Good morning, everyone. Glenn Jurgen, Director of Human Resources with Access Health CT.
Okay, I guess that seems to be it.
Mr. Chair, we did not receive any public comments for today's meeting.
Okay. Being no public comments, I ask if anyone has any comments with respect to the minutes of December 5th, 2024 meeting. If there are no comments on the minutes, I'd entertain a motion that they be approved.
It's Paul.
To
So
abstain
moved.
because I wasn't on the committee then.
Okay, I think Paul made the motion. Do I have a second?
Did you hear? I need to abstain. This is Dina,
Uh,
because I wasn't at that meeting. I wasn't on the committee yet.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, Ms. Berlin. We're just asking for a motion right now, and then we're gonna be doing a roll call. So which has an abstention, but in the meantime, we'd like to have a second to the motion before us, if that's possible. Mr. Chair, you can also second the motion too.
Okay, I'll second the motion. With the twist of my arm. You want to call the roll?
Chair, would you like
Okay, it's
to
been-
asking for a roll call?
Yeah, I assume is there any comments on the motion? Hearing none, yes, you want to call the roll?
Okay, Thomas McNeil,
Yes.
Steven Hernandez, Paul Philpott,
Yes.
Kathleen Holt,
I will abstain. I was not on the committee at the time.
and Dina Berlin. That's abstention. That's my understanding, right?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I guess the next item is have Glenn give us a staffing update.
Hey, good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee, Glenn Jurgen, Director of Human Resources with Access Health CT. I'm going to run through our staffing update. I know we do this fairly frequently. We haven't had many changes, but I do hope this is helpful to the committee and the new members of the committee. Welcome as well. I'm going to start off with ethnicity. As you can see, Access Health continues to remain a very diverse organization. With half of its employee population being white, the other half being minority. What's really, really interesting about this is the diversity within these categories as well. Our Hispanic population is extremely diverse. Not only folks from, Puerto Rico, Mexico, but Central America, South America. So we have a very diverse population, and this helps us extremely well with servicing our membership, different dialects and different languages. I think at some point we should do a survey and find out how many collective languages the employees of Access Health speak. It's got to be in the double digits. It's really impressive, from Spanish, Creole, Polish, Croatian, just a ton of different languages and dialects, which is excellent. And this also brings forth a lot of differences in ideas and opinions. So when we have group meetings, team meetings, folks from various different backgrounds often bring different items to the table, which is extremely helpful in driving our mission and vision forward, and especially our strategic initiatives as they pull forward. And our timeline and runway shortens. It's getting exciting. So Martin, why don't we go to the next slide and talk about generations? This slide, folks, this one changes pretty much every time we meet, and I'm always fascinated by this. The baby boomers and Generation X, those continue to shrink slightly, and we see more millennials and Generation Z entering the workforce. And what's interesting about Generation Z is, these are the folks who grew up with technology. If you look at those birth years there, well, not necessarily in the cell phone age, there's a good chance a lot of these folks had some type of technology in their household and they didn't know any different. They always had the internet. They may have always had a mobile phone in the household. So they're very tech driven. And sometimes we see this in the organization within their interactions. We've had some just kind of an interesting anecdote. We had an intern a few years ago who was really, really brief on the phone when working with our HR manager, but would send very detailed and long messages over Teams. So they were more comfortable in that messaging phase of communication versus the over the phone. So we have to be very mindful of the different generations in the work. Certainly Gen X and baby boomers, they have, while different but similar upbringings, they came to be before the technology. So they grew up, some grew up with it, some grew into it. While we get into our millennials and Gen Z, they've really had tech kind of attached to the hip, if you will. So it's always interesting to manage different generations. What works for one doesn't work for others, but we're very adaptable. Our organization is very tech heavy. We often say we are a tech company while we are a health insurance exchange, but all of our platforms are technology based. So having those folks who have technical aptitude, regardless of generation, is extremely important. But Martin, why don't we go to the next slide where we'll talk about gender and pay type. Access Health continues to be a predominantly female-dominated organization. So a very high number of females employed in the organization, as you can see here, roughly 57% versus 43%. And our pay type in the organization is predominantly salary. And I kind of go back, folks, to what I had mentioned about it being a technical organization. We have a lot of technical folks who work within the organization with our information technology departments, also our tech ops. But we also have, some positions that are salary driven. If you look towards the skills and knowledge that folks need in our plan management area, our finance area, training and whatnot. Operations has probably the largest amount of hourly workers, and those are customer resolution team members. Those are that tier 3 and tier 4 support who handle the customer after they've dealt with our carriers and our call center. So they may have been bounced around a bit, but this has been fairly steady, the pay type, over the last few years. We continue to believe that it will remain this way, even with the adoption of our strategic initiatives as we drive more towards a tech-based solution. We'll always have the ability for our staff to interact with people should they choose to, but certainly the goal is to make it simple where people can do it on their own. But I'll pause here. I just went through a lot of information. If anyone has any questions or comments, I welcome them now.
Glenn, I just have a question on the 30% in terms of pay type. Are those people mostly full-time employees?
Yes, Tom. All of our employees currently at Access Health are full-time 40-hour-a-week employees. And as I mentioned, they are in our customer resolution team. However, they also make up a number of administrative positions that we have in the organization as well.
And in that 30%, are their benefits the same as the salaried workers?
Yes, yes. No differentiation between benefits when it comes to healthcare, retirement, merit. It's all the same. If you're a full-time employee of Access Health, you have the same benefits regardless if you're salary, hourly. If you're at the kind of the lower end of the salary grade or the higher end, we treat everybody equally.
I got you. Okay. Any other questions for Glenn before we move on? Okay.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I'd like to speak now about our intern program. This is really exciting. We've got quite a few interns starting. We're in the double digits. We're looking at probably about a dozen interns starting. So for an organization of 100 people, we're adding about 10% to our population. So this is a big deal for us, and we're really excited about it. We're going to be starting the interns on June 4th. So that's coming up real quick here. We're just about a month out. We've got a great first day planned for them. We were just strategizing yesterday with our values committee. And we're going to have a good group of employees from our values committee meeting these interns in our building lobby. And then they'll pair off with an intern, bring them upstairs to our office on the 15th floor, get them signed in, and then we'll escort them to the training room. We're going to have a classroom style onboarding. We've got a number of people coming in to speak to them directly, including James. We're going to be providing lunch on that first day as well. So it should be a really robust process for them. It's going to be an opportunity for them to not only on their first day, but throughout the program, to really connect with some folks. Personally, I'm big on networking and connections, and in life, you just never know where you're going to land or who you're going to run into. But I like to think that this program is going to facilitate some potentially lifelong connections for people as they progress through their careers and their lives and whatnot. So looking forward to bringing them on. Each department is going to have an intern. So that's kind of the standard run of the mill, if you will. So the intern, let's just use finance. The finance intern will be working with the finance team and the activities that they have, the accounting side, the finance side, just looking at how money flows in and out of Access Health Connecticut. But also we're going to have all of the interns working on a group project. And we've identified a project within IT, and it actually dovetails pretty closely with finance. We're going to be doing inventory. IT is going to create a new inventory system with assistance from the interns to track all of our hardware. And for a small organization, we have a lot of it, from laptops to monitors to all sorts of peripheral devices around the office, conference rooms, Polycom speakers, there's mobile devices. It can be a little eye-watering when you start to think about it. So the interns are going to help facilitate a new project or a new inventory system for this. And part of that will be flowing over to finance and the data rail system, which is a new finance system that they just implemented a few months back. And that's kind of a twofold. Not only will that track these assets, if you will also help finance value them, depreciate them, and whatnot. So this is going to have a really solid impact on the organization as a whole. And this is going to allow them to all collaborate. Certainly, again, to go back to our intern with finance experience, hey, that's great that they're going to get that. But they're also going to get to see some other components of this. How does this fit into operations? You're going to be able to collaborate as a finance intern with all the other departments through their colleagues and interns. So we're really looking forward to this. We have some other activities planned for them. There's some other small projects. I know there's going to be some assistance. Marchin's going to provide some insight to some of the interns, a smaller group, for some of the board activities. I know I mentioned this to the committee before, but we're looking to have them spend some time over at the Legislative Office Building in Capitol. to get a tour of that, see how our state government works. Essentially, we're fortunate as a quasi-public organization to have access over there and some connections, including internal connections. So these students will get more than kind of a traditional internship. Personally speaking, I think kind of the bigger fear is for an intern to come in and just, kind of sit around, not have much to do. Everyone jokes, oh, it's just a position where you get paid to do nothing and get coffee. That's not what we're doing. We want this to be a valuable experience for them. We want them to have something to put on their resume that, hey, I worked for an organization, but also I did a project. I made an impactful difference to this organization. And just to kind of add a little more context to that, folks, we're going to have the interns present their findings, how they all collaborated together in a group presentation to the senior leadership team before they leave. They'll be with us from early June until about mid-August. So the latter part of July and into August, they'll put that presentation together and meet with the entire leadership team and give that presentation. So we're really excited about this, looking forward to having them assist us. And again, as I talked previously about the generational slides, what they have. There's a lot of opportunity for us to learn from these students. They're coming out to the workforce. What are their expectations? Are there areas where they see we could improve based on technologies and process they know? We're a newer organization, having been around for 12 or 13 years. But when you bring in some new, energetic, younger folks, maybe they'll see things in a different light. So this has been a lot of work. It's been a heavy lift for many in the organization. That being said, we're excited about it for not only the impact on the interns, but Access Health as well. But I'll pause here for any questions from the committee.
Again, let me add a little bit, a couple of comments. When I first thought about this effort, the intent was to expose, give these young college students exposure to a professional work environment. So when they do graduate, they'll have a good understanding on when you show up on the first day after you graduate college, you have your first professional job, what's expected of you, the professionalism that's expected. It's more about that than anything else. As Glenn indicated, they're really going to be able to help us out with our information technology system, tracking our system. This is an area most companies struggle with. You have so many devices across the organization. Some go, some come. So we want to make sure you have a good feel for everything that we own from a technology perspective is accounted for. So when it's reported doing our audit, it's properly reported. So that's a very big, important project for us as an organization. But more importantly, just giving these young folks the exposure that they're going to need to management, to leadership, and so they could grow from that point on. So that's the intent. And I think we're going to get as much out of it as they're going to get out of it. Thank you, Glenn. Any questions at all for Glenn or myself?
Hey,
No question.
guys,
Go ahead.
yeah, this is Paul. I just wanted to know, is there any compensation at all for the interns?
Oh, yes.
Yes, yes, this is a paid internship. All interns will receive compensation. We're looking at interns to be working between 25 to 40 hours a week, depending on department needs. And thank you for bringing that up, Paul. They'll be working the same schedule that Access Health works. We've recently shifted from, well, we're still in a hybrid mode. We used to have two different groups of hybrid employees. We had a Monday, Tuesday group and a Wednesday, Thursday group. We recently shift to what we're branding a midweek collaboration schedule, where all employees are in the office on Tuesday and Wednesday. So those tend to be days that are heavy collaboration days, lots of meetings face-to-face. It helps with that kind of, I know you may have heard of this, folks, Zoom fatigue or Teams fatigue, where you're talking to people, but it's over cameras for 8 hours a day. So this really allows us to have more face-to-face collaboration. It's been great for the culture. These days have been really active, speaking from experience, but the interns will follow that same schedule. So they're going to really see an office. And I found through some of the groups that I'm involved with regarding some outreach groups or advisory groups I'm a part of with some universities, that a lot of college and university students really want that in-office experience. Some of these students have, obviously many of them learned through the pandemic, whether it was high school or college. So they're anxious to get into a work site and see how a workplace works, how an office environment works, and to dovetail on what James said, to get that experience. And as many of you are aware, you can gain a lot just from physically being in an office. James and I were discussing this the other day with interview candidates coming in. That walk, that experience, just from sitting in the lobby and walking back to the area of interviewing, there's a feeling that people get. So these students will be immersed in our organization, in our culture, for 2 days a week, which will give them a really good experience of what an excellent culture, if I can pat ourselves on the back, is, and what an office environment is. So, Paul, I'm sorry for the long-winded answer, but thank you for bringing that up. And James, thank you for your context too.
No, well, I think, Glenn, this is really going to be valuable for these guys because, as you know, it's been in the news. The federal government and virtually every major corporation now is calling everybody to come back into the office.
Yeah.
So you better get used to it.
Yeah. We've seen Paul, a really, just a big difference in, we've had so much collaboration. We've had to send out reminders of booking conference rooms, being mindful of making sure you book a conference room, what size, don't put 2 people in the biggest conference room we have, because there's a chance that there's a larger group that's going to need that as well. These are all good, problems, if you will, to have. But I agree. You're right, Paul. There's a lot more. So to give these students an idea of what the workplace is like, but also to be there physically too. There's a lot to getting to the office and getting home in the evening. So that's a routine. You have to understand what it is. It's not just logging in, with a nice shirt on and warm up pants. You got to go through the motions and get to work. So thank you for that.
Right. Great.
Yeah, it sounds like a great program. And I think one of the benefits is just having people come in who will ask questions about things that we just take for granted. And who knows, they may come up with some thoughts on different ways to do things that maybe no one else has thought of. So I think
Tom,
it's a great program.
Yeah, Tom, we're counting on them educating us. As you might imagine, some of them were 6, 7, 8 years old when we were created back in 2012, 2013. So they grew up with the ACA, and they may be aware of it or may not be aware of it, but they have that fresh perspective. So we're looking forward to them making a noteworthy contribution to our evolution as an organization as well. And we hope to help them along as well.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's a good point, Tom. So the group project will most certainly benefit Access Health CT, but to your point, there's probably going to be some ancillary items that we weren't aware of. So we'll certainly document those as takeaways as we go through this program year to year, and it'll be really interesting to see as we move forward how much we have benefited as they've benefited as well. It's a very mutually beneficial, I suppose, if I could coin that phrase, program. So looking forward to it.
Hey, Paul, very quickly, back to your point, Paul, about the federal government cutting programs. The application process was intense. And Glenn, maybe talk a little bit about the number of applicants we had. And all these jobs were posted. And then we had a number of applicants apply for these jobs. And that might be an indication, Paul, to what you were just saying. Maybe a lot of the opportunities that normally exist don't exist because of what's been going on at the federal level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah,
James.
I think this is a win-win. I mean, our organization obviously will learn something, and it's good for us. And I think these young people will, they probably don't have much experience actually working in an office environment. I wouldn't think.
Right.
So and what my point was, that is becoming more and more and more a necessity, because we're just like everybody's pretty much done with Zoom, in many, many, many sectors anyway.
Mhm. And Paul, one of the reasons we created a group project is because everywhere you work these days, it's all about working across departments, having group efforts where everyone's working collaboratively. So we wanted to introduce them. They don't know each other, so they have to work in a group setting where everyone has to contribute. And we're going,
Right.
we'll be giving them feedback along the way, but they have to work as a team. Right? One SLT will be responsible. One member of our senior team will lead the group project with them, directing them and giving them feedback as they move forward. Again, this is learning as well as working for them and then for us.
Great.
Love it.
I was just gonna, oh, sorry, Paul. I was just gonna add, following up on what James said about the response. My department recruited at law schools, and we asked Glenn, literally the applications did not stop coming in.
Yeah.
We had a huge number, so.
Thank you, Susan. That's a great point to bring up. It was a wonderful problem to have, and I say problem in air quotes. We just had so many folks who applied to this. It was really a response that was pretty akin to what we see for our full-time positions. We used a application called Handshake, which is really popular throughout the university and college system. And you can pick where you want to post these. So we posted these with a lot of local, and by local I mean state, universities and colleges. But we had responses that were even from outside of those areas, which was interesting. But I think some folks were searching by geographic region, even if they went to school outside of Connecticut, they lived or were coming back for the summer and were looking for internship opportunities. But easily all of these internships had probably easily over a dozen, probably 20 or more students applying. And then even after we started the interview process, we had to pause some of them because they were still trickling in. And we didn't want anyone to be left out, if you will, and think that, we went radio silent on them. But we had a really good response. I feel that we have a very solid footing for a reputation as one of the best employers in Connecticut. The award helped significantly. I think those accolades go a long way. We've heard from some people that they actually seek us out because we are on that list, because folks want to work for one of the best employers in Connecticut. So that's really good to hear. It also seems that may be permeating out in the university ethos as well, based on the response that we had. So we're really excited about that. Again, like I said, a good problem to have, but we've gone through a number of interviews, and just speaking with some of my colleagues on the leadership team, a lot of these interns have showed up extremely well in the interviews. I know Jessica, our HR manager, and I have had some recently, and I have to say, some of the students have showed up better than some interviews I've been involved with for experienced full-time employees. So it gives us not only hope for this program, but I know we all kind of look to the younger generations as maybe not an equal footing with current generations, but I think there's a lot of optimism as these students get out of university and college and enter the workforce. We've got some real sharp folks out there, so looking forward to those results.
Yeah, Glenn, and James, it sounds like a fantastic program. I'm really pleased that the thing is a paid internship too. I think that makes a difference.
Yeah.
And but having said that, I don't think there's anything wrong with having these guys make a Starbucks run for you every once in a while. A little humility is a good thing to teach.
Paul, we'll make a note of that. We'll make a note.
Spoken like a Marine.
Yeah, right. Well, maybe that's where it came from, James.
Yeah.
Yes.
So maybe, Paul, we'll call it Humility Week instead of the other
Okay.
that's used in the services. That might go over a little better.
There you go.
But thank you for that, Paul. Appreciate it. Any other questions or comments for the group? I went a little longer on this one, folks. I apologize, but I really appreciate the insight and interaction, and I'm glad you all have some input and share the excitement with it. We're really looking forward to it as well.
Okay.
All
Why
right.
don't we move to change management, and Joyce will give us her thoughts on that.
Excellent. I'd just like to take a moment, folks, and introduce Joyce Petrella from Calculus of Talent. We've been working with Joyce for not quite, maybe since last July. It seems like longer, but in a good way. Joyce and Dawn have been very ingrained in the organization and the culture and the work they're doing. We had some excellent discussions with them, bringing them on for 10 Clicks, and their role in change management has excitingly expanded into ICRA and internal change management. So with that, Joyce, I'll hand it over to you. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you, Glenn, and thank you everyone for being here this morning. I'm really really honored to be invited to present to you today. First, a little introduction. I am the owner of Calculus of Talent, which is a small boutique firm here localized in Hartford, Connecticut. We have a number of colleagues on our roster who do a lot of talent management type work. And we put change management into that category because, as you know, technology change in particular, and I've heard you all speak about that keenly this morning, is really an important aspect to a lot of work that organizations are challenged by. And we've done a lot of work in that space. I came from Aetna, so I've spent many years growing my own career in both talent management as well as change management. There, you might recall, many, many years ago, Aetna was in the midst of a transformation of its own. Unfortunately, that one was self-inflicted in terms of the changing aspect of health insurance. And as a result, I cut my teeth in that arena there. Since then, I've done a lot of work both at the Hartford Insurance Group, so insurance seems to be in my DNA, but also in terms of Raytheon and a number of other organizations that are going through some significant change. So I won't go into that into any more detail, but Glenn had also mentioned Dawn Burnham, who is also partnering with us on the Access Health CT change work. She has a similar background as do I, both in terms of change management, but she's also a very strong expert, if you will, in decision making, particularly in groups and in the midst of change. So we bring that with us as part of our competency to be able to help Access Health make the transitions that they're planning with 10 Clicks. To Glenn's point, we found that as we are onboarded to do the work for 10 Clicks, and by the way, I'll just kind of give a short definition as to what change management is, just so that we're all on the same page. And simply put, it's helping any organization go from its current state and the activities that it's doing excellently well, and helping it through the transitional state to the future state. It's pretty simple when you think about it, but it's not easy. And we know that through all of our experiences, and that it's that transition state that gets a little difficult because people want to cling not only to what they know in terms of the current state, but to be able to really adopt and really embrace the future state. So it's that kind of murky middle state that can be very, very challenging. So that's my definition. And please, I invite you to interrupt me or ask questions along the way. I'm not going to do a soliloquy, but I just want to kind of give you a sense of what we've done, as you can see on some of the activities. But we were brought in initially to look at 10 Clicks, very early in the process, I might add, which is a real, and I've shared this both with James and the SLT at Access Health CT, that is a wonderful opportunity, because typically we get called in at the last minute, right before they go from the transition state into the future state, and they say, oh, you know what, we forgot to get the people ready. And usually it's a scramble and it's a bit of a crisis. We don't see that here. We are brought in as early as 3 years ahead of the activities with 10 Clicks, which is a real benefit because it gives us enough of a runway to start looking at the stakeholders, how they will be impacted, and to help move everyone forward. So we have a methodology. Both Dawn and I are credentialed in this work. And we are finding that the adoption and the openness at the culture at Access Healthcare is really fertile ground for making this change very, very successful. So our initial assessment of the readiness, which we conducted last fall, is showing that there's real excitement around 10 clicks and are really looking forward to the transformational change that it's going to require. So we're seeing good things already, and a lot of that has to do with what both Glenn and James in particular have started to build the capability awareness of what it's going to look like, what it might look like, and start to get people ready to think differently about how you execute your strategy, which I think is really important. That employee commitment that we're starting to see is unique at this early stage. And a lot of that has to do with the town halls that James and Glenn have been holding, as well as Marquise, as you know, is also heavily involved in this work, but really looking at what that might entail and helping people embrace change as opposed to suddenly saying, nah, I don't know, right? I don't know what that means for me. What's that going to imply? And we're helping build some roadblock, build a plan so that we remove some of those roadblocks that could easily happen when change occurs. So one of the things that we hope to do in the next couple of months, as a matter of fact, is start to document this change. And I think that's really going to be important for us to look backwards as well as forward to really understand what makes change successful in any organization, particularly at Access Health as they go forward. So we're really excited about that. I wanted to talk a little bit about ICHRA because, to Glenn's point, as we were moving forward in looking at 10 clicks, we realized that there was an imminent change, like 7.1 imminent for the ICHRA launch. And working very closely with John as he was looking at 10 clicks in general, realized we have some opportunities as well. So in a very quick sprint, John has been really helpful in leading the change effort as a senior leadership team member to help people understand what that might mean to the organization. With James, we were looking at all of the roles that are going to be impacted, the stakeholders involved in that, and we almost see ICHRA as a small bellwether of what 10 clicks on a larger scale will ultimately entail. And this has really been helpful. And I think John has been really good at starting to articulate what that future state might be for his own team and what it might look like for Access Health in general, and what it might mean in terms of different workflows, and certainly embracing some of the questions and external stakeholders that might incur a change as well, including obviously the brokers as well as legislature work that is occurring in parallel with this. So the change plan that John is putting in place is going to ultimately help us feel our way toward what it might incorporate for the larger enterprise. So we're really excited about ICHRA. And James, I know if you've seen what John has proposed, this has really been a partnership that has really been helpful for us to learn at Calculus Account what is some of the strengths that we can leverage, as well as what's going to be changing pretty significantly. So we're really pleased about that as we move to this to the future state. I'll just close with the internal change management, because having been somewhat of in Glenn's shoes of knowing what it's like to bring on people to help with change management, our goal is not to be with you forever. Our goal is to make you an organization that embraces change, understands what it takes to implement change, but also to become a resilient organization, because change is the norm, right? We all know that more things could change in terms of legislation that could come down, as well as activities that you want to inaugurate, particularly in the technology space, as Glenn and James were alluding to. So we're going to be helping Glenn in particular start to build out what an internal change management opportunity might look like. What does that capability mean? And how do you become self-reliant on your own change capability? So along the way, we plan to implement ways to really kind of pull it forward and build that capability in-house at Access Health CT. So that's really what our tools and our training is planning to be. And we're really excited about being engaged to work with you all on that process. So with that, I'll close to see if there's any questions. I kind of did a bit of an overview of what we're doing. We could go into some detail, but I know that might take up most of your time, and I know I want to be respectful of that. So, any questions that I might be able to answer?
Joyce,
Glenn?
thank you
Oh,
very
yeah,
much for
Glenn.
that,
Thank you.
Joyce.
This is Paul.
Yes, sir.
Just thank you for that presentation, Joyce, and we look
My
forward to
pleasure.
you coming back and giving us updates.
I'd be more than happy to. Thank you.
Excellent.
So
Mike,
just very quickly, back in '98, I went through a transformation at a company where I was the head of finance, and we were going from a mainframe environment to a client server environment, technology. First time, massive upgrade to our system. It was a complete disaster because the employees were not being prepared for the change, and it took the organization about 8 to 10 years to get back on track. It was a very difficult time for the organization, and more importantly, the employees. Some employees they knew how to do. They had been doing the same job for about 40 years. They went home one week and came back on the Monday. Their job had changed, and they didn't know how to do what they had been doing for about 20, 30, 40 years. I saw how destructive that was to the culture, to the organization. So that's why I had asked Glenn find somebody that could help us with change management as early as possible. Again, we have not done anything at all with 10 Clicks other than start planning, doing the studies. We have not built anything yet. So it's important we get our staff on track as early as possible. So that's critical. But in the midst of all those changes that we have inside ourselves, we are always changing as an organization because the environment that we're in is changing every day. And given the federal statutes, state statutes, just the general environment of health insurance is changing every day, and that demands us to change and adjust. And sometimes the changes are happening on the fly, and we have to make very, like right now, the state legislature is in session. We don't know what's going to come out of that session. That will require us to make adjustments to our system, to how we deal with our customers. So that's why the internal change management is a critical part of that. Now we're only about 12 years old as an organization. So for us, it's easy. If you're a 100-year-old organization with cultures that are ingrained in your culture, it's even more difficult. So I'm happy that Joyce and Dawn are on board to help us navigate those processes, those changes as we move forward.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce.
Thank you so much again for inviting me to join you today.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here.
So, Mr. Chair, the next agenda item is the executive session. Would you like to call the motion?
Okay, Marcin, I'll move that we close this session and move to executive session.
Okay, so the chair will request a motion to go into executive session to discuss personal matters exempt from disclosure under CGS 1-200(6) (A).
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Philpott. Thank you.
Kathy Holt, I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on the motion?
Hey, Tom, I think you're on mute, Tom.
You're right. Sorry about that. Why don't we, it's been moved and seconded. Marcin, you want to call the roll on the
Executive
vote?
session.
Yes.
Thomas McNeil,
Yes.
Steven Hernandez,
I vote yes.
Paul Philpott,
Yes.
Kathleen Holt,
Yes.
Dina Berlin.
Yes.
So at this time, members of the committee will disconnect from the committee call-in number and connect to the separate executive session call-in, which was provided earlier. And also at the end of the executive session, Chair will request that members of the committee disconnect from the executive session call-in line and reconnect with the committee call-in number. Thank you.
Let's see if I can get this right.
So Martin, do we have a quorum ready?
Yes, we do,
Okay.
James. I'm just waiting for Mr. McNeil to be back on. I think he's on hold right now.
Okay.
Morrison, it's Paul. I'm on board now.
Thank you, Mr. Philbott. We're just waiting for Mr. Chair.
Okay, I think we've all returned.
So, Mr. Chair, would you
Uh,
like to have a motion, request a motion to come out of the executive session?
Yes, why don't we do that motion again? We did that in executive session, but why don't we redo the motion to come out of executive session?
Morrison, it's Paul. I move that we come out of executive session.
Thank you, Mr. Philbott. Ms. Holt, I believe you're muted.
I am sorry. Yes, I second the motion.
Thank you.
Any comments on the motion? Okay, hearing none. Marcy, if you call the roll, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Thomas McNeil,
Yes.
Steven Hernandez,
Yes.
Paul Philbott,
Yes.
Kathleen Holt,
Yes.
and Dina Berlin.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all. And at this point, I entertain a motion to adjourn the session.
Mr. Chair, it's Paul. I move we adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments on the motion? Hearing none. Marson, if you'd call the roll, please.
Okay, yes, Mr. Chair, Thomas McNeil,
Yes.
Martin, are you muted?
no, I'm not
That'd be
muted.
a
Okay.
first.
It was quiet there for a minute, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Steven Hernandez, that's a vote for adjournment. Paul Philpott,
Oh, yes.
Yes.
thank you. Kathleen Holt,
Yes.
thank you. And Dina Berlin,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate
all.
it, everyone.
Okay.
Take
Thank you
care.
all.
Bye-bye
Thank
all.
you. Have
Thank
a
you,
good day.
everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.